Why, hello there! A nice tale here. I do hope you're having a good day today, and if you would kindly consider liking and subscribing, I'd greatly appreciate that. This is a summary of a knife I have done a review on. Oh, there's a little bit of usage on that right there. Junk. I didn't clean this thing up. But I've done a review on this. The full review will be linked below. This is a Twosun knife, the TS433. This particular one is in M390, titanium, and Alatex. I'm not going to go over the entire, which is basically Alatex is just a thicker weave carbon fiber, but as far as I know. But they seem to be able to get some interesting colors out of it, so I can appreciate it. 3¼ inches of blade, 7 7/8 overall. It's a pretty medium-sized knife, but it's a chunky thing. It is. In fact, it's chunky enough that I will bring out the calipers, despite this not being a review. It is a contoured, chunky at 630 thousandths, quite thick, and 150, basically 160,000 blade stock. So it's definitely very thick and very hand-filling, but it's a lot more functional than, like, it's a choice. It still works great. This is a great knife. I said it in my review. I'll say it again. I'll say it all the time. This is a really good knife. Like, this is one of those ones where Twosun has hit it properly. It is a thick, it is chunky, sort of big bug out vibes, partially due to the fact the way that the tang sticks out at the back there. But it really just kind of feels very, very similar. Full flat grind. Surprisingly, I mean, it's not as thin, it's not as light, it's not all that, but it just feels like a very similar style of knife. It is on bearings. It is a crossbar lock with Omega springs. Surprisingly good action. Surprisingly snappy, actually. There's a decent carry and a decent pop to this thing. The thumb studs stick out really nice. The reverse flick is easy as long as you can, get your hands on things. Reverse flick in general for a lot of crossbar locks can be a little bit finicky because I kind of find when I put my I kind of find that I want to put my fingers right here and you can't. So once you get used to it, though, it's pretty easy. I find that doing it with the actual edge of the nail on this particular one, great. Even better than the actual meat of your finger. But you can do it either way. They stick out proud. They have lots of texture. They're really good. The blade is stone-washed. It is M390. It comes down to a surprisingly thin edge for how thick the blade stock is due to this full flat grind. The plunge grind is great. Twosun's logo, designer logo, plus, I mean, you don't necessarily need the name of the knife or the number of the knife, but for some reason I don't mind it on Twosun's. Maybe because it's just letters and numbers, and it's usually kept pretty minimal. M390 blade steel. For the most part, the blade's quite nice, quite good looking. It actually does something that I don't normally like, and that's where if you actually look at it, there's kind of an arch this way where the blade rises off the handle. I don't, for some reason, find the aesthetic where the blade goes up from the handle in sort of a V. I mean, it's not a V, but it's just, it's a, what's the word? You've got a acute angle, I guess, instead of the, no, that's not an acute angle. I don't know. I prefer it straight or, sloping down, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But I find myself not caring as much on this one because it's just so good. It's got jimping that is functional. It's got micromilling. It's got softened edges with big, huge chamfers on there. As I said, it is contoured. It's got good T8 hardware. That looks almost like a T6. Is that a T6? I don't know if I've ever checked that hardware. Where are my bits? That's T7. Okay, yeah, it's T6, but deep deeply tooled, decently quality. Seems to be good T6. I imagine that there's probably a T6 under here. There's a hidden lanyard post. There's a backspacer with a little bit more sort of jimping and gearing that, I mean, you're never going to interact with it, so it doesn't really do much, but yeah, still got good jimping on it. The bars for the crossbar, even though they don't stick out as much as a lot of knives, they're pretty easy to get to. The drop, the feel, the action is very good. You've got a stop pin up there, and it stops for the opening position, and the closed position, of course, uses the bar itself. Decent blade-to-handle ratio. It is not centered. That is one thing. This knife is not centered. That is a knock against it, and even if it were centered, the tip is still ground a little off-center, so it kind of compounds on itself and makes it look like it's even worse than it is. Like, the blade is not that far off-center, but the tip is because of that. Yeah, sure. Though at Twosun's prices, I mean, I got this knife... I believe I got this knife at under... I mean, I got it off the eBay. Off the eBay? Really? Okay. Off eBay. So I got the bid on and everything, and so you can get Twosun's cheaper for that. I mean, they're a little bit more expensive on average nowadays because they've become a little more popular, but, or a little at least more known about. I still got this thing, I believe at like $98. I want to say it was under 100, just barely, but it was probably under 100 for M390 and titanium. Yeah, you can still get winners. You definitely can. It's got a titanium pocket clip with a very interesting shape that is a little bit... could use a little more flex, I'll be honest. But does actually work reasonably decently. It is... It looks like it's inset, so it's not reversible, so I guess that is a downside. In fact, I'm going to double check that right now because I don't think I did in the full review. That would be a downside because the locking system and the entire rest of the knife is ambidextrous, but come on, get out of there. Yeah, it is inset, so it's not a reversible pocket clip, which is a little bit of a shame and a little bit of a miss. But as I'm not left-handed, I don't care. So I'm not going to be like, oh, I have to take points away from you because you... Okay, that took a second to tighten back up there. Yeah. Overall, this is just a good, actually usable knife that sort of hits... And the ergos are pretty neutral. You got sort of a basic grip. You got a choke-up grip with this sort of kind of half choil-ish thing, but you're still pretty decently far away from the edge, but you can get up there and still feel comfortable and confident. It's just a well-designed knife, and for anybody who's interacted with Twosun, you kind of know that they have a million wonky designs, and then they have like a 500,000 surprisingly good designs, even if some of them look wonky, that actually are just better than you'd think. This is one of those more straightforward designs, but it's doing the right stuff. It's good. It's comfortable. It's big. I mean, contour rounded, nice milling. Yeah, it's just sort of hitting all the boxes for an actually kind of very usable, very functional EDC knife. The M390, I'm sure, as is the case with most Chinese OEMs, what, 59, 61, maybe 60 to 62, HRC, it's low, it's not ideal, they're all doing it. Most companies seem to be doing it. Honestly, yeah, sure, at this point, you'd probably be just served, that's a dog, you'd probably be served better just getting, like, S35 or S45 at that 60, 61 range, where that one will perform more optimally, and it'll probably perform very similarly, maybe better, depending on where this actually falls in the range. M390 tends to be wildly divergent with in that few point margin, but is what it is. It is still premium blade steel on a premium handle and surprisingly good execution for what is typically lower than the average from most other companies. You do end up with a little bit of wonkiness here and there, a little bit of craziness, but it's hard to complain when you get a good one at a good price, even if it does have a little bit of wonkiness. And even the wonkiness is pretty, like, not necessarily the case. I have several that are perfectly of these good models that are basically perfect. Centered everything. There's no play, no movement. And in fact, it feels really, really strong. Like, this thing has a really solid lock up for a crossbar lock. Yeah, it's a good knife. And it's just one that, I mean, if it appeals to you, and if it's something that you could use, and it's definitely a user. So, yeah. I'm going to end things here and say this is one of the winners from Twosun, and as I said before, the full link will be full review with a little bit more detail, going to full specs and everything like that will be linked down below. And thank you for watching, and have a great day. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.